What is up, Collide? Whoa! Man, it is great to see you all here for Collide X. Man, as you can see today, we are on a farm riding a horse. And man, this is great to be out here. But before we jump in today, man, I want to tell you a little bit about me and my story. See, when I was in high school, I thought it was really cool to chase after things that were really scary, right? Things that were dangerous, because I was always in the pursuit of feeling free, feeling that sense of freedom. But here's the thing is all of the things I did, man, they were pretty sketchy stuff. From jumping into the water off a cliff without checking it first, from climbing buildings and structures without any equipment on, going skydiving, doing anything I could to feel freedom. And man, oftentimes it was really dangerous. And it put me in a place that wasn't good. It put me in a place where, man, when I left the house, I wasn't sure what was gonna happen when I was gone. And it was all in the pursuit of feeling free. Have you guys ever done something that's a little risky just to feel free? Just a cowboy and his horse. See, that's exactly what happened in the very first story in Genesis. Adam and Eve had freedom, right? They lived in unity with God. They lived in a beautiful garden where they had everything that they needed. But one day, there was a serpent that came, and he came to Adam and Eve, and he started to tempt them. He started to tell them things like, oh, you can eat from this tree. It was the tree that God told them specifically not to eat from. And he kept telling them, now you could do that. It's okay. Did God really say that he didn't want you to do that? He's just afraid that you're gonna become too much like him. And see, they made the decision to eat from that tree, chasing after what they thought was true freedom. But what they found was that freedom actually led to a lot of shame. It led to guilt. It led to hiding from God instead of living in unity with God. And I think we make that same mistake sometimes. We think that just because it might be good for us, that we can just do it. We think that just because we can, we should. See, Paul actually says this to a church in Corinth. In 1 Corinthians 6, verse 12, he says, "You say I am allowed to do anything, but not everything is good for you. And even though I'm allowed to do anything, I must not become a slave to anything." See, here's what Paul means, is just because you can do anything doesn't mean that you should. Just because you can do those things doesn't mean that it's gonna be good for you. See, it's kind of like just because you can talk back to your parents because it feels like freedom doesn't mean that you should do that. Just because you can lie and cheat at school doesn't mean that you should. And sometimes we feel like we can do that because we're chasing after freedom and we think we won't get caught. So why horses? Why are we on this farm right now? Because horses are a great picture of us, right? Horses think that they need freedom, that the freedom that they want is running wild, right? But oftentimes that leads to a lot of danger. It can lead to the horses getting hurt. It can lead to horses starving in winter, right? That's not always what's best for them. But a trainer teaches a horse how to run faster, how to be led, keeps it safe, feeds it food, helps it along the journey of its life, and it ends up growing to be stronger, a better version of itself. But see, sometimes the horses that don't want to get trained, the horses that don't want to be led, they stay stuck where they are. That's the way it works with God. Sometimes at first, the things that God wants us to do can feel like obstacles, but as we start to learn, man, we find out that what God has for us is actually trying to help us succeed in life, trying to help us run faster and go farther. See, the Bible tells us that we have all made decisions that lead us away from God, and that's called sin. See, sin separates us from God, and it ends up being the opposite of what we think it does. We think it makes us free, but in reality, it makes us stuck, just like I talked about before. And see, that's not the freedom that we want to be chasing. See, when we sin, it always leads to brokenness. It leads to broken relationships. It leads to broken friendships. It leads to our broken attitudes towards other people. It always goes towards brokenness. But see, here's the good news. See, this guy Jesus came along and he offered us true freedom, a freedom that doesn't rely on us taking bigger and bigger risks, a freedom that doesn't make us feel like we need to try to do all of these things to be free, but a freedom that is true, a one that's real, one that we're always going to be able to go back to. And so here's the thing, maybe for you, you're not chasing freedom the way I did. You're not taking these big risks with your life. But maybe for you, it's some of those things I mentioned earlier, like talking back to your parents because you feel like you just can, or cheating at school because you don't think you'll get caught. It's sometimes those little things that we do to chase after our own freedom. What are you doing to chase after what you think is true freedom? See, those horses, they could run free, they could run wild and think that they're free for a while. But see, the dangerous things in life step in, just like all those things I mentioned earlier that could happen to them. But see, when they trust their trainer, they've experienced true freedom. They experience freedom of being able to run in the fields and enjoy their life. See, God's freedom works the same way. He's not trying to take away your joy. He's trying to protect you. He's trying to offer you true freedom. Because here's the thing, if it's not good for you, it's not freedom. If something's not good for you, it's not really freedom. See, when I was chasing those thrills in high school, I felt like it was always gonna bring me that freedom, but it didn't. The thrills never led me closer. It actually led me further away, and I tested my life a little bit too much. And see, it wasn't until I decided that I was gonna trust Jesus. See, I made that decision to follow Jesus when I was younger, but I didn't really trust him with my life. And it wasn't until I finally said, Jesus, I'm gonna follow you and I'm gonna put my trust in you, that I found that freedom, the freedom that Jesus offers you and I. See, the Bible tells us that accepting that freedom, it doesn't have to be hard. It says that if we confess with our mouth and we believe in our heart that Jesus is who he says he is, that he died and he rose from the dead, that we can have that freedom. That we can have a freedom that is so far beyond your wildest dreams, so far beyond any type of freedom that you're gonna find here in this earth. And here's the thing, it's easy as A, B, C. Admitting that you've sinned, that you've fallen short of God's glorious standard. It's believing that Jesus is who he said he is, that he died and that he rose from the dead to save you, to save me. And finally, choosing to turn away from our old self and turning towards Jesus, turning towards the new. So imagine if in your life you kept making the same choices over and over again. Would you like the outcome of your life if you did that? Think ahead about it. Is that what the outcome of your life, what you want to look like? The next question is think about how you're gonna give over that control to God, allowing him to lead you. What would it look like if you took the reins and gave them to God and allowed him to lead you through every day of your life? Asking yourself, God, what do you want me to do? And not chasing after your own freedom anymore, but chasing after the freedom that God offers you. Man, I know for me, as soon as I set down my own way of freedom, the risks I was taking, and I stepped into the freedom that God offered me, walking with him was so much better than anything I could have offered myself. And so what does that look like for you?